Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rip, for this wonderful introduction, and thank you to GIA and to Janet and Jim for giving us the privilege to join you this morning and celebrate this wonderful community and terrific tradition in creating a common future amongst grantmakers in the arts and artists. So just a bit about Sphinx and this group that you're about to hear. Sphinx is the national organization born right here in the Motor City and the cultural mecca of the world, as we like to think of Detroit, but serving young people not only throughout the country, but also all around the world. Our mission for the past 20 years has been transforming lives through the power of diversity in the arts, and we try to do so through a sense of a pipeline, really reaching young people from elementary schools all the way into arts leadership and arts development, reaching about 10,000 young people through our educational programming and more than 2.5 million through live and broadcast audiences. Now, many times when I talk about Sphinx, I have to make the case or state the need and talk a little about the state of our field. I know I don't have to do so extensively in front of this group, but it's still worth kind of just touching base on that. When we think about our history and our legacy, there's so much to celebrate in terms of inclusion and the future of our field, but there's also history. And I'm reminded of the words of Maya Angelou, who teaches us that history need not be repeated, but history cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage and honesty, it need not be repeated. And that's very much what many of our artists try to do. In 1964, the year of the passing of Civil Rights Act, the New York Philharmonic, arguably one of the more important and largest orchestras in the country, hired its first African American in its history. Today, the Philharmonic has one African American member. So while there is much to celebrate, there's so much work to be done. And then more on a national level, when we think about the importance of inclusion, we look at our communities and representation. And there, unfortunately, still 20 years after Sphinx's work, we're still faced with approximately 4.5% of all of our orchestras being Black or Latino, in comparison to such a stark misrepresentation, really, of our communities. And when we think about orchestras, of course, it's just a subset of our field. There's such deep and complex organisms, and they're beyond who really performs on stage. There's also executive directors who together represent less than 1%. There's music directors where there's such a stark underrepresentation. When I think about artistic leadership and the choices of what gets performed on stage by our orchestras, artistic administrators represent a statistical 0%. So we've definitely got a long way to go. And on top of that, kind of pertinent to the group that you're about to hear, less than 1% of all works in the repertoire throughout the season performed and presented by American orchestras are representative of composers of any color. Less than 1%. So we've got a long way to go. Education and community relation directors, these are folks who are agents of change. These are the catalysts, the connectors between the community and the art. And even there's such a stark underrepresentation. So it's with that setting, that's sort of the foundation of Sphinx, and very much the need behind what we do, that we started this work 20 years ago and intend to continue it. Here I have a very short video that tells the story from the standpoint of the artists themselves, whose lives we hope to touch and whom we hope to serve. I just want to share that with you as we get ready to hear the group. The perception that the talent isn't out there within communities of color is so deeply false in classical music.
Wow, drop the mic. There are millions of kids like this in this country who do not have the resources to become everything that they could be. But fortunately, these programs are doing the job that the bigger society fails to do.
Sphinx's mission is transforming lives through the power of diversity in the arts. And we address the issue of lack of diversity and inclusion through a sense of a pipeline. We have Overture program replace violins in the hands of young people for the first time.
I definitely believe that the Sphinx Overture program has made a difference in this community.
The Sphinx competition is our flagship program. It's a wholesome approach to musician development that goes beyond the competitive mechanism. Sphinx Connect is the epicenter for artists and leaders in diversity, devoted to the issues of inclusion, leadership, and career advancement. We have Sphinx Symphony, which is a professional, all African American and Latino orchestra. And then we have the Sphinx Virtuosi, which is an ensemble of soloists that performs across the country, everywhere from Carnegie Hall to Harris Theater in Chicago, and really communities beyond.
I think the Sphinx organization is so incredibly important. It tries to achieve in our society an equilibrium of people who are incredibly talented and motivated to be part of every aspect of our society.
Sphinx has done tremendous work over its first 20 years. And I think that over the next 20 years, Sphinx will truly transform the lives of millions of more people.
Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you a collection of artists who are truly ambassadors, not only for Sphinx's vision and mission, but truly for the future of our field. Not only do they represent the new face of classical music, but also the future of leadership, I believe. In a time that is so divisive and so turbulent in our communities, I truly believe that this collection of musicians not only serve our communities, but also show all of us, young and old, how to lead and how to unite people through art. So I invite each and every one of you to join me in offering a warm Detroit welcome to the Sphinx Virtuosi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please stay with us. You can stay here on stage. We're just going to be a second. So, Eddie. So, thank you so much for, thank you so much for being who you are, for doing what you do, and for reminding us what we're doing every day is for this, for these people, their music, their souls, our hearts. I also want to thank Rip Rapson for being here today. He reminds us that he gives us the call to action. And in the words of William Shakespeare, to screw our, no, that's not it. No, that is it. To screw our courage to the sticking post is the words of Lady Macbeth. And we might be a little bit like that these days, for we are the front line, the warriors in this war on humanity. And it is for these people, these young people, and our children that we fight this battle. We become uncomfortable, we get into that zone that could maybe cost us our jobs, but if our jobs are of the values that the Kresge Foundation stated today, then we are all in sync, and this is a battle we will win. So I'll leave you with that, my last words at a GIA conference. I am grateful for everything that's happened in the last 9 years in my life. I am grateful for the work that you do every day, and I am grateful for Eddie Torres. Who I'm handing over the mic.
I just want to close by saying thank you to all of you, and I would like our final words to be, Janet, I love you, and we all will always love you. Thank you. See you in Oakland.